Hi, this is Angela from North Carolina. I was going to talk to you a little bit about my hometown, Charlotte. It's a wonderful place for you to spend a vacation. The first thing I would do after I got settled into one of our wonderful hotels is I would plan an excursion to Reed Gold Mine. Reed Gold Mine was the site of the very first gold rush in America. Gold was discovered there in 1799 by a little boy, Conrad Reed. He found a 3-pound rock in a creek, and his father let him use it as a doorstop for 3 years. And then one day they decided to have it looked at by a jeweler. The jeweler gave him $3.60, which was a week's wages at the time. And the next day, the jeweler sold it for $3,600. Reed's gold mine was officially born. Within a short period, John Reed found a 28-pound gold rock. The word got out, and Charlotte became a gold rush city. Miners were here from everywhere. So that leads to the second place I would like to recommend that you go to. The Charlotte Mint was the first mini mint that was ever built in the country. And President Andrew Jackson was pretty upset about the fact that we were mining gold here in Charlotte, and yet we were sending it to London. So we were paying freight for it to go across the water. We were paying the London Mint to mint the coins for us. Then we were paying to have them shipped back. So Charlotte opened a museum. It's now called the Mint Museum. Charlotte opened the very first mini mint and started minting our own coin. We are very famous for a quarter that was worth $2.50. It was called a quarter of a dollar. And any coin that you ever find with a C on it was minted here in Charlotte. Years later, after that original one burned down and was rebuilt, Charlotte was going to tear down the mint and put up a post office. Concerned citizens raised money, purchased land on Randolph Road in Charlotte, and our mint was moved stone by stone and rebuilt to look the way it originally did, and it is now a museum, which is called the Charlotte Mint Museum. And it's a wonderful museum. It features modern art, American craft art, African art. It's beautiful. People send their art here for display. We have things that come through town all the time that will stay 6 months. You can't ever go wrong to go spend some time at our Mint Museum. And then downtown, we have Discovery Place, which is on North Tryon Street, and it is a children's nature and science museum. But to me, it's for children of all ages. It was built in 1981. If you're here on a particularly hot day or a rainy day, it's the perfect place to spend the day. It isn't cheap. I believe an adult is $25, and I think a child is $15. But it is well worth it. You will love it. You and your family both. One of my favorite places in Charlotte also is Freedom Park, which is on East Boulevard. And most of the people originally had their mansions right downtown. And then their children started growing up and wanting to build nice houses a little bit further from town. So the neighborhood of Myers Park was born. And they decided that they needed a good place for people to enjoy their Sundays and a place for people just to enjoy being out together socializing. So some citizens got together and raised money, and they purchased 98 acres, and they put a 7-acre park, lake in the park, and in the middle of the 7-acre lake is a big island where they have music events. We're famous for our festival in the park here. That's every September. When I was young and my children were young, you could walk on a steam engine and climb and pretend like you were the conductor, and there was an airplane that you could get in and act like you were the pilot. But now, for safety reasons, those are fenced off. But no child will ever forget their first trip to Freedom Park, when they get to walk and feed the ducks, is just a beautiful piece of land. And right across a little creek is our Charlotte Nature Museum that is connected to the park. And it has every type of animal, such as snakes, a lot of exotic animals. And there's also a conservatory where you can go in and sit in the cool and watch a star show, which is a whole lot of fun too. I can't not mention the NASCAR Hall of Fame. It's only been here since 2010, but it's already made a real name for itself. People that aren't even into NASCAR really enjoy going there, and it's right downtown Charlotte as well. But it's worth a trip. It's actually on the Martin Luther King Boulevard in Charlotte, but I do recommend it. And if you are a fan of NASCAR, then you ought to drive on up the road and go to the Charlotte Motor Speedway. It was built in 1959 by the wealthy car dealer Bruton Smith, and his son, Bruton Smith Jr., is the president to this day. Then we can't mention Charlotte without mentioning Carowinds. Carowinds was built in 1973 at a cost of $70 million. The owner, the man with the imagination for Carowinds, was Pat Hall, and he was inspired by a 1956 trip that he and his family took to Disneyland. He wanted to unify North and South Carolina, so he built the park, and it straddles the state line. Half of Carowinds is in North Carolina, the other half is in South Carolina. And at the time, North and South Carolina didn't get along real well, so that was really a good thing on his part. But it's really a fun place. It's also got a water park inside of it. Nodah. How can I not mention Nodah? North Davidson Street, when I was young, was older. They were starting to be kind of run down, beautiful older homes. My father had a plant there. There were quite a few factories and plants because it was really near the main roads to travel and get your products taken away. Well, it fell into disrepair. No one wanted to live there. And then about 30 years ago, it was reinvented as a wonderful art spot. There's always live music. Charlotte has a wonderful music scene. There is a neighborhood theater, food on the streets, just a wonderful place to go. You will love it. Your family will love it. You can browse for hours in Nodah. You'll find something there for everyone. And the Charlotte music scene, while you're here, you should pick up one of our little local newspapers that you see outside of all the hotels, and there will be music of some sort playing every night, and hopefully you can find one that you're interested in. So then in 1995, Jerry Richardson had a dream to bring a franchise of the NFL to Charlotte, and it was the same year that the Jaguars went to Florida and Charlotte got the Panthers. We have a beautiful stadium. I think it's gorgeous, but the league says we need to change it, possibly build another one. But it's really a beautiful stadium, and it's one of the rare football stadiums where there's not a bad seat in the house. Everywhere you sit, you can see, and it doesn't hurt that there's, a TV inside that you can look at that's bigger than a city. And across from there is the Charlotte Knights Stadium, our baseball team. You haven't lived till you've gone to a Charlotte Knights game at sunset. There's skyscrapers surrounding it, and the lights start to flicker and bounce off of the windows and the steel on the buildings, and you feel like you're at a light show. It's so breathtaking, you don't even really want to look at the baseball teams playing while the sun is going down. Plus, the children love it. We have a big chicken mascot. The food is good. The beer is cold. It's a really great place to go to also. We also have our hockey team here, and we have a Hornets basketball team as well. They're not as famous. The Hornets were real famous way back in the day when they were owned by George Shinn. He fell in disgrace. The Hornets moved to Louisiana, and they've never quite regain the popularity here that they did have. But the last place I was going to recommend you go to is the Beckler Museum of Modern Art on South Tryon Street. It was built in 2010, and it's 36,000 square feet. And it was designed by the wonderful architect Mario Belta. And it features modern art, African art, just beautiful, beautiful art. It's a lovely place to go. And one of my favorite places is the Evergreen Cemetery. Not everybody would think to put a cemetery on a list of cool places to visit. But if you like to play pokey, it's one of the greatest places to go. Every night, there's probably 100 people or more walking around, looking at graves, getting rubbings, but at the same time, they're pokey hunting. That cemetery was first built in 1877. It even had a potter's field at the time. But it's really a beautiful cemetery with some of the most unusual headstones that you've ever seen. And if you're into cemeteries, you could spend a couple of days just walking around there. So I think that's all I can really think of right off the top of my head, except for the fact that it's not really a place to go look at, but you'll be fascinated by the trees here in Charlotte. The nickname of our city is the City of Trees, and everywhere you go, the trees are just magnificent. Right now, they're breathtaking because they're starting to bloom in spring. And another real cool thing was in 1857, Charlotte did open up the first college for women, and it was called the Charlotte Female Institute. And it is now the beautiful Queens College that's located in Myers Park. It's co-ed now, but for years, of course, it was just for women. But I hope you've enjoyed my little quick tour of Charlotte. And if there's some places that you can think of that you love about Charlotte, please tell me. And I would love to go check them out. I could talk all day about Charlotte, but I just thought I'd hit some of my high spots. And you can't go wrong with any restaurant in Charlotte. Close your eyes, point to a restaurant in one of the little restaurant books, and no matter where you go, you're going to have wonderful food. We are famous for our food and for our hospitality. So check Charlotte out sometime. You might be like so many people that come here for a visit and never leave.